Ouchie, ouchie, my knee. Kind of came down on my knee there when I got back. I was on my way back. Ow! Ow, ow. Okay, anyway. Sorry about that. Like I said, I needed to split the stream here. Let me just... Okay. That's done. Now I gotta pull up the book. I have all of these books on my notes app. I think I've mentioned that before, but yeah. So this book, this light novel series is called War of the Yokai. First, just a little bit of backstory on it. I started writing this summer of 2004. No, 14. Sorry, 14. It's book one was written over the course of a couple years, and then I took a huge break because I just hit a wall. That break lasted about 5 years. 5.5, 6, maybe 6. Last year, I, like so many others of us, suddenly came into a lot of free time. I had already started book 2 by that point, but it allowed me to really just take off with my writing, and I got 2 books written in the course of about 18 months. So, this is currently sitting at 3 books. I'm working on the 4th as we speak. I hope you all will enjoy. I'll just quickly go over each character here from left to right. Sarah O'Malley, Emiko Ayame, Usako Takibana, our lovable protagonist, Rei Kobayashi, and Nonami Issei. I'm kind of covering her up a little. Sorry. So, introductions are now out of the way. If y'all are ready and aren't having an ad playing, then let's get started with the prologue. Book 1, Prelude to Chaos. Hi, my name is Usako Takibana. I'm 15 years old and a sophomore at Tsukiyomi Academy, an all-girls boarding school I've attended since the 2nd grade. During my freshman year, if you told me monsters and demons were real, I probably would have just laughed it off and said something like, sure, and they're BFFs with Santa and aliens, too. I want to believe, man. However, about 3 months into this semester, I began to wonder otherwise. 7:55 a.m. Oi, Usako! Wake up, you lazy bones! Oof. Looks like I fell asleep at my desk before class again. Huh? It took me a minute to get my bearings. Oh, hey, Emi-chan. That was my best friend, Emiko Ayame. We've been like sisters since the 3rd grade. Usually, Emi's a very kind and thoughtful girl with a gentle smile. But as of recently, she seemed a little... I don't know, distant, I suppose. Then again, with finals around the corner and all, I suppose she has the right. Hey, Usako, did you hear? It happened again last night. I don't think so, I replied, yawning. I had to work the late shift, so it was a shower, food, bed kind of night. The 1-minute warning bell sounded as Emi continued. There was another murder, this time at the park nearby. That makes 4 so far, if I'm not mistaken. With a bop on the head, I corrected her. 3, silly. There was the one by the docks, the one in the woods, and now this one. Jokingly, I rubbed my chin and suspiciously eye her up and down. Now where did you pull that 4th one from? Usako, this is hardly a joking matter, she answered with a sigh, adjusting her glasses as she turned towards the windows. But if I were you, I would make certain I was home well before dark. I giggled, which seemed to confuse Emiko, as she reeled back and looked me dead in the eyes, her ponytail nearly smacking her in the face. I fail to see any humor in this situation, she stated harshly. Furthermore, all those killed thus far have been girls around our own age. If you're not careful... Without realizing it, Emiko's voice had risen to a sharp yell, causing everyone in the room to look over at us. If you're not careful, she finished quietly as the last bell rang, her cheeks slightly tinged red with embarrassment. You could be next. And you're the last person I'd ever want to lose, Uso-chan. With that, class rep Emiko Ayame walked over to her seat as Korimura-sensei entered the room and started class. 2:15 p.m. My last class of the day was historical literature, and it's by far my least favorite. I thought it would be fun. After all, I love history, but all it's been so far is essay after essay after essay. Ugh, how lame can you get? Anyway, today we went to the library in order to start working on a research paper or something I honestly gave up caring a month ago. But you bet your ass I wasn't going to let a chance like this pass me by. The library building was actually an aircraft hangar back during World War II, and it's a big one at that. When the school originally bought it, the first thing they did was renovate and add on to this monster of a building, and it's still going on to this very day. The joke around campus is that they'll stop building when World War III starts up and they need the giant mech buried deep below the original structure. Needless to say, it would be very easy for someone to get lost, or, in my case, ditch class among the many hundreds of bookshelves. As soon as Araki-sensei wasn't looking, I snuck off and began looking for a place to work. I was almost to the literature department doors before I finally settled on a place, nestled cozily between two bookshelves. All right, this'll do nicely, I said as I opened my bag and pulled out some grid paper and pencils. Yes, I'm trying to become a professional mangaka, but, well, my sketches need a little work. Okay, a lot of work. Okay, fine, I can barely draw a stick person. Get off my back. Jeez. Anyway, before I could actually get started, a great tiredness suddenly fell over me. No doubt a result of both my late hours at work and my own natural apathy. I fought and fought, but in the end I couldn't help but fall asleep. And there I stayed until long after the final bell. And probably would have stayed all night had I not heard that sound. The sound I would never forget. It was somewhere between a deep bellowing shout and a blood-curdling scream. And whatever was making that noise was close. Very close. Alright, just real quick, I want to set up some little rules here for this. Feel free to react in the... Do you mind, Mr. Train? I see. Anyway, where was I? Right. Feel free to react in the chat. I love to see that. If something's funny, say so. Or you like a line, just, all that. I can't respond to messages. Yes, Mr. Train evidently does mind. I can't obviously respond to messages, but seeing them is, I don't want to sound selfish, but it is encouraging. So if something strikes you as particularly funny, just popping in a lull or just, have at it. Anyway, I'm gonna drink a little more milky, and we're gonna start on the main story itself. Straight from the gallon, baby. I'm a classy bitch. An unearthly scream rang through the dark and empty halls. It was long past the time anyone was supposed to be in the main school building. Yet here Usako Takibana, a sophomore at Tsukuyomi Academy, found herself, locked in with some kind of demon. All the rotten luck, she groaned, ducked behind a corner. First my bike chain falls off on the way here this morning, then I fell asleep in the library, and when I finally wake up, it's midnight and something's screaming! Another scream, this time closer, causes the pinkette to nearly jump out of her skin. Oh crap, oh crap, crap, oh crap! Panicking, Usako's azure eyes dart in every direction, desperately trying to find something she could use as a weapon. Unfortunately, The only thing she could manage to locate was a fire extinguisher. Guess this'll have to do, she sighed in defeat. From down the hall, Usako could hear the thing's clawed feet getting closer. Coming right for her, it almost sounded like. As if it knew. You want some of this? She whimpered as quietly as possible, scared out of her wits. Come at me, bro. Click, click, click. The footfalls stopped. Usako gulped. Slowly, she peered her head around the corner, eyes clenched shut. A foul smell entered her nostrils, somewhere between wet dog and sulfur. Daring the nightmare, the high schooler slowly opened one eye. And with that, Usako blew Usain Bolt's land speed record out of the water, charging for the nearest exit as her fire extinguisher clanged uselessly down the hall after her. She screamed, tears gushing down her face. It's gonna eat my soul! Meanwhile, on the roof of a nearby building, framed against the crescent moon, two female figures sat on their haunches, waiting. One, tall and broad, violet eyes with short red hair trimmed in a bob cut, a single neck-length braid on the left side of her face. The other figure was smaller in both size and frame, with slender limbs, pale skin, and medium-length pumpkin orange hair. Somehow, despite the low light, her blue eyes almost seemed to glow in the dark as she said, "What's the situation this time?" "Looks like we've got her now," replied the bigger girl. A concerned expression then crossed her face. "Wait a minute. Oh no, Issa-san, you were right. There's like a human in there too." "Then why are we still here, Kobayashi-kun? We must make haste." The first girl, the one called Issei, ducked into the roof via an air vent. Kobayashi, however, found herself unable to get in past her elbows. "I'm stuck," she whimpered helplessly, a victim of her own endowments. Man, if I had a quarter for every time that's happened. "This is it. This is how I die." Usako really hadn't been thinking about where she was going when she fled from the monster, and had thusly wound up trapped in the third floor of the art wing. As moonlight cast bizarre shadows on the statues and paintings displayed on the walls, Usako contemplated her fate. It figured that her life would end like this, sliced apart by some otherworldly monster, surrounded by the works of the more popular students. "I never even had a boyfriend," she cried as footfalls approached her once more. But as the door slowly creaked open, a rush of adrenaline surged through Usako Takibana's body. There was no way in hell she was going to die a virgin. "Hey, ugly!" she shouted, jumping up and aiming the hose at the monster. "Eat foam, sucker!" A shower of white spray erupted from the nozzle as Usako flailed like mad, barely able to control the stream as it forced the dark figure to the ground. Once the stream slowed to a trickle, Usako hesitantly approached the felled form and poked it with a nearby ruler. "Guess it's dead," she muttered as the foamy figure began to stir, causing Usako to jump back about 10 feet and yelp. As it stood back up, the pinkette noticed that it looked surprisingly human. In fact, she could swear that this thing, or whatever it was, wore her school's purple and gray uniform. It was then that Usako realized that she hadn't attacked the creature at all, but rather the 2B class representative, Emiko Ayame. "Oh my god, Emi-chan!" she exclaimed, rushing back towards the girl. "I am so sorry! I thought you were the monster!" "Why on earth would you believe me to be a monster, Usako?" inquired the bewildered girl as she wiped the foamy substance off her face and glasses. Her usually cheery persona had vanished completely, replaced by a tone absolutely dripping with venom. The two had been best friends since the 3rd grade, but the azure-haired girl constantly found herself at odds with the pink-haired girl. Either Usuko had gotten into another fight and needed bailing out, or had come up with some crazy scheme that required explanation as to how it would not only fail to accomplish anything, but almost certainly start World Wars 3 through 5 simultaneously. Well, you see, I had fallen asleep in the library after class, and I guess no one noticed. Story of my life, right? Well, when I woke up, it was almost midnight, and there was this god-awful screaming. I went out to see what was causing it, and there was this weird creature. Then it started chasing me, until I wound up here, and that's when you walked in, Amy-chan. It was then that Usuko realized that, though her current position wasn't too out of the ordinary, demon monsters aside, Emiko always made sure to leave the building no later than 5. And she never once, in all the years Usuko knew her, deviated from this ritual. Say, Emi-chan? What brings you here at this hour of night, anyway? When she looked into Emiko's face just then, Usuko saw not the friend she had known for many years, nor the class representative she admired greatly. What Usuko Takibana saw was the face of a predator that had just cornered its prey and was going in for the kill. Why, whatever do you mean, my dear Usuko-chan? I always come here at this time. To hunt. In a fraction of a second, the girl's body shimmered before transforming into a hideous, all too familiar form. Standing nearly 7 foot tall, with pale blue skin and long black hair, wearing nothing more than basic tiger hide coverings, arms as thick as tree limbs, muscles that looked like they'd been carved from stone. But the face, despite the purple, slit pupil eyes and single conical horn, the face was still that of Emiko. Gulped Usuko, terrified beyond all rational thought. What's happened to you, Emi-chan? Sorry. Oh, this? Sneered the large, pale blue demon, its voice practically identical to Emiko's, save for being several octaves deeper. This is what you might call my true form. You didn't really think I was one of you humans, did you? Usuko, you always were a fool. Grinning widely, she lunged at Usuko. Usuko's cries for help were cut off as a massive spear burst through the ceiling and through the ogre's stomach. Hey, Big Blue! Teased the girl with short, bright red hair, jumping through the hole in the roof made by the spear. Heads up! Prying her tear-filled eyes open, Usuko nearly wet herself at the sight before her. An ornate, cross-shaped spear, medieval in appearance, with gold trim swirling around the edge of its polished steel blade. She probably could have seen more, but the tip was about 2 inches from her nose. Usuko figured her night couldn't get any weirder than it already had. And it was then that the crimson-haired girl transformed into a monster almost identical to Emiko, only a bright red instead of a pale blue. "Ah! Stupid red!" shouted Emiko, pulling the spear from her gut and throwing it at the red demon. "It'll take more than that to bring me down." However, rather than dodge the dangerous projectile her blue-toned counterpart had hurled, the red-hued ogre simply let it pass through her body, only barely wincing, and into the hand of a second girl stood behind her, bright orange hair obscuring her eyes from view. As Usuko watched, Emiko's wound began healing at a rapid pace, eventually leaving no sign it had ever existed, as did the red monsters. "I'll take it from here, Kobayashi-kun," said the second girl in a monotone voice, as she twirled the spear over her head at a blinding pace. "You see to the human. Attend to her injuries if need be, but get her out of here at once." The red ogre girl's body shimmered and returned to its original shape as she grabbed Usuko under the arms and carried her away towards the gymnasium, the pinkette protesting vehemently as she went. "Now that the human is out of harm's way, Blue Oni," said the orangette coldly, "we can discuss why you felt it was necessary to not only reveal your true form, but also attempt to slay her. Both of these are very serious offenses, I'm sure you're aware." The ogre girl snorted in contempt.
And what are you going to do about it, hmm? You know you won't kill me. After all, my father is the Blue Oni King.
The spear held by the stoic girl seemed to vanish for a moment, before Emiko was suddenly hurled against the wall by an unseen force, and pinned into place by smaller copies of the spear. I needn't kill you to accomplish my goal, Princess Sayame, she said, slowly approaching the now helpless Oni girl. Headquarters merely needs to know why you've attacked this girl as well as the others. Don't think us to be ignorant. We know full well that you're the one responsible for the recent string of killings in Fumizaki. A dark shadow passed over Emiko's face as she began giggling. Okay, yeah, you caught me, she said with almost childlike glee. Yep, I'm your culprit. I absolutely slaughtered those fools, each and every one of them. Her eyes, the telltale deep purple that identified her kind, grew wide with madness, and a sadistic grin stretched across her face as her words grew more and more frantic. But why shouldn't I? They deserve it, those filthy humans. They hunted my kin to near extinction, and all because we're ugly in their eyes. Well, you know what? I don't care what rules you people made about humans. It's open season, I say! No limit! Another sphere materialized through the bottom of her jaw, through her upper palate, sealing it shut, though not keeping the blue monster from screaming in agony anyway. Without hesitation, the shorter girl jumped onto Emiko's broad shoulders and unsheathed the dagger right over her heart, piercing the skin just enough to draw blood. You will listen to me, and you will do it now, she said, still quiet in voice, but with a tone of barely restrained fury. Emiko was able to get a better look at the girl's bright blue eyes, and saw them filled with a boiling rage. Your kind were not the only ones to have been hunted by humans. Not by a long shot. She opened her mouth, revealing her razor-sharp canines to the helpless ogre. We too have been hated by humans from the moment our races met, but we hold no grudge against them as you do. Instead, we've tried and tried to intermix with humanity, and in many ways. The present peace between humans and monsters is a fragile one, and you know it, Emiko Ayame. As things are now, they believe us to be myths, things of legend and folklore. And you know as well as I do what would happen should we become common knowledge to man. It's happened before, or did you forget? She then removed the spear from the girl's mouth so she could speak again. So again, I ask, why did you attack these humans and risk discovery? What did you hope to accomplish?
Very well. I'll tell you, vampire, said Emiko as her jaw healed itself. But I cannot promise you'll like what you hear.
Let me go! Usuko was struggling uselessly against the powerful grip of the crimson-haired girl as she sprinted through the halls of the school, trying to put as much distance as possible between her and Emiko. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, she apologized profusely, seemingly almost as upset as Usuko was. But Nanami told me to get you out of there, and I'm not going to disobey her. I know the girl used to be your friend and all, but you gotta face facts that Emiko is gone. Maybe for good. That's assuming she ever existed to begin with. Usuko looked up at the sprinting girl. How'd you know her name? More importantly, who the hell are you? Looking around and determining they were far enough, the tall girl set Usuko down onto the floor and took a rest. My name is Rei Kobayashi. My friend back there is Nanami Issei. We were sent here to investigate rumors that there was a berserk Blue Oni. Turns out we were right. Unsurprisingly, none of this made a lick of sense to Usuko. But I saw you turn into a creature just like her, so why aren't you trying to kill me too? Ray sighed. Hey, just because I'm a red Oni doesn't, mean I'm evil. Besides, for the most part, we Oni are peaceful. Sure, we have some pretty sick weapons, but those are strictly self-defense, you know? It's humans like you that made us out as mindless demons. Realizing the accusatory nature of her words, the redhead apologized. After a few moments of awkward silence, Usuko spoke up again. Kobayashi-san, was it? Is there anything I can do to help? What do you mean? She replied, confused by what the girl meant. I mean, that's my best friend back there, and I'm sitting here on my butt while she gets killed. Please, isn't there anything I can do? Get another drink here.
whistle.
Ray frowned, closing her violet eyes and sighing deeply. I'm sorry, Usuko-chan, but you're human. If you went up there, you'd be, killed for sure. Please! Thinking about this for a moment, Ray decided to give the girl a chance. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out a small, clear gem attached to a thin piece of rope with a clasp. This is a yokai crystal. They're what we use to transform into humans and vice versa. I've heard that some rare humans have used these and developed powers like ours. Usuko reached for the sparkling gem, but Ray pulled it away. I gotta warn you though, the odds of you dying horribly are far greater than those that you'll survive. Are you sure you want to do this? At that moment, a limp figure came flying down the hall and crashed into a row of lockers. It was Nonami. Issei-san! Cried Ray as she ran over to her friend. Run! She croaked as a massive, dark blue winged entity flew towards them. Die, you vampire scum! It screamed as it swung a cement column in every direction. Well, since I'm screwed either way, thought Usuko grimly. Kobayashi-san, toss me the gem! The crimson-haired girl nodded and hurled the crystal at Usuko, who grabbed it in midair and fastened it around her neck. At that moment, the world shined with a blinding white light that seemed to pierce through the very walls themselves, touching every last corner of the building. And in that moment, unbeknownst to anyone present, history was about to be written. After a few minutes, Nonami was once again able to see. Being a creature of the night and all, the light was even more intense for her eyes, used to the pitch darkness. However, what she saw made Nonami Issei question her view of reality. Fighting the fully transformed Emiko was what seemed to be a magical girl, straight out of an anime, dressed in a green-white variation of this school's purple and gray uniform, with angelic wings on her back and wielding some sort of shotgun and solid gold baseball bat? This girl was actually forcing the Oni into a corner. Kobayashi, did you call for reinforcements? Reinforcements? Ray, about as dumbfounded as Nonami was, shook her head in the negative. No, please don't be angry with me, Nonami, but that's the girl from earlier. She wanted to help her friend, and when this thing showed up, it was do or die for her, so I gave her a yokai crystal. Nonami Issei had been around for a while. After all, she was a vampire, and they're not known for living a normal human lifespan. But never had she seen a yokai crystal do something like this before. If the human even survived the infusion process to begin with, they typically took on attributes of the monster who last possessed the crystal. Considering that would have been Ray in this circumstance, this girl should have taken on aspects of a red Oni, Natsume Otaku's wet dream come true. Are you absolutely certain that was a yokai crystal? She asked in disbelief. By that time, Usuko had managed to ensnare Emiko in some sort of light net fired from her shotgun, which rapidly drained the Oni of her power and forced her to revert back to human form once more. Well, I think so, Ray replied as the two approached the fallen Oni. Hey, Issa-chan, good work! With a tired smile, Usuko gave the two girls a thumbs up before collapsing onto the floor. Oh dear me, sighed Ray, hefting the now snoring girl over her shoulder. Well, it seems like she's back to normal now. I'll take the blue Oni to HQ, Nonami replied. Lydia can take care of things from there. You, on the other hand, had ought to take that girl home. Now that she not only knows of our existence, but has a yokai crystal, we'll have to assign someone to guard her at all times. Ooh, giggled Ray. Keeping me? Please, oh please. Perhaps, Kobayashi-kun, sighed Nonami with a faint smile. We'll have to see. Yay! Cheered the red Oni as she took flight into the night. The master's preparing for war. As Nonami jumped from building to building, carrying the now helpless blue Oni on her back towards Garden at HQ, the words she spoke earlier rang inside her head. What do you mean by that? She had replied. We
am tired of being hidden, of assuming these disgusting human forms in order to keep peace with those vile creatures. Our master is gathering an army, even as we speak, to overthrow those worms and take our rightful place as rulers of this world. It was then that, using the Oni's natural power of illusion, Emiko had managed to fully transform and ripped herself free of the spear's bonds without alerting Nonami until it was too late. Catching the vampire off guard, she had no trouble pummeling her into the ground before throwing her the length of the school. "This cannot be good," she said to herself, landing on a roof in the middle of downtown. If what she said is true, then we're all in danger. She walked over to an unassuming door and input a series of numbers into a nearby keypad. Out of the ground popped a small camera-like device attached to a metallic tendril which grew like a beanstalk until it reached the center of her chest. From the lens shone a soft green light, which scanned the faintly orange-hued yokai crystal around her neck. "Nonami Issei," she stated firmly, "and I have a prisoner with me. I'm requesting an immediate debrief with Mrs. Nekomoto. Repeat, immediate debrief. She needs to know about this ASAP." The camera sank back into the ground as the door opened to reveal an almost 6-foot-tall, slender woman with short, dark purple hair framing her face. 1 second. "Ray has already informed me about what happened in that," she said in a heavy Texan accent as the two walked down a dimly lit corridor. 3 guards had already escorted Emiko to a holding cell for the time being. Nonami and Lydia Nakamoto seemed to be the only ones in the building as the two of them entered an office. All around the room, Nonami saw various pictures and paintings of cats, while in the windowsill were several pots of catnip. The chairs seemed to be clawed up. Lydia sat behind her desk and folded her hands across her mouth. "I'd like to hear your account, Ms. Issei," she said in a quiet tone. "Ms. Kobayashi can be a little difficult to understand sometimes. What exactly did she mean by and then Uso-chan took the crystal and whoosh, there was a huge light, and when it faded she was a Maha Shoujo? What on earth is that?" "Maha Shoujo, ma'am," Nonami corrected. "It means magical girl. They're pretty popular here in Japan." "Right. Anyway, from what I can understand, it seems she gave a human a yokai crystal without authorization. I know Ray can be a ditz sometimes, but how could she have forgotten how dangerous and foolish her actions were? Given the situation, I feel Kobayashi-kun's actions were justified. If she hadn't given the crystal to the human, her fate would have been the same as if she had done so and it failed. However, that isn't all, Mrs. Nakamoto. I learned some very disturbing information from the Oni, which I think you should hear." "Indeed?" inquired Lydia, a pair of feline ears on her head, perking up in attention. "By all means, Ms. Issei, please go on." Nonami went on to recount her tryst with the Oni, and what was revealed to her about the supposed building army. The vampire could tell, despite her boss's stoic face, that the information was upsetting her. The ears perched atop her head were now laying flat against her scalp, and her hair had begun to stand up a bit. "I see," she replied, maintaining her composure as best she could. I'll have Sess tell the others to keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. As for you, Nanami, if you're certain that this girl now possesses a yokai crystal, then I'll assign some guards to her in the event of another attack." "Ma'am, if I may, Ray requested that she be put in charge of this Usako's detail, and if she's in charge, I'll need to be there too so she doesn't do anything stupid or otherwise harmful to herself or others." Lydia considered this for a moment. "Very well. I'll arrange it so the two of you will have residence close to her. Are you sure you want this, Nanami? You realize it might be dangerous, right?" "Lydia, this is me we're talking about here. I've got this." Nodding in acknowledgement, Lydia turned towards her computer and began making the necessary arrangements for Nonami and Ray. The next morning, Usako woke up to what sounded like voices in the next unit over. This was somewhat odd, because the apartment that she shared with her sister made its reputation on the soundproofing in the walls. Damn it all, she groaned, oozing out of bed onto the floor. That was one hell of a dream last night, though. Emiko turns into a demon, and I have to fight her as Bishojo Senshi Sailor Usako. Or something. From the door came a soft knocking.
Hey, Ani-chan? Are you awake? There's someone here to see you.
Give me a minute, Kuriko. She slurred, still half asleep.
I don't know, sis. It seems kind of urgent. What did you do last night anyway? You don't come home until late, and when you do, you sneak in and go straight to bed. I was worried sick about you.
Changing out of her pajamas and into some actual clothes, Usako ponders what her younger sister could have meant. No, she chuckled, shaking her head. That was just a dream. It had to have been. But then the pink-cat realized that she had no memory whatsoever of coming home that night. Or of anything after the final bell. Now somewhat nervous and apprehensive, Usako slowly opened her bedroom door and entered the living room. It's alive! It's alive! Softly chided a voice from the sofa. Come, Usako Takibana, have a seat, won't you? The girl turned to face Usako as sunlight reflected off the single visible fang in her smiling mouth. I promise I won't bite. Usako looked past the first girl and saw the same crimson-haired girl from the night before, stammering. Then, that wasn't a dream, was it?
Oh, Usako-chan,
pouted Ray.
It's like no way to greet a friend.
Give her a break, Ray, said Nonami nonchalantly. It's quite logical for her to view what happened last night as a dream. Put yourself in her shoes. Would you believe what you saw to be real? Ray nodded dutifully as a sweat drop rolled down Nonami's forehead. Sometimes I worry about you. Anyway, Takibana-san, I can assure you that what happened was very real. You've stepped into a far more dangerous world than you could imagine.
The Yokai crystal,
said Ray.
You still have it, right?
Usako thought for a moment, before remembering the necklace she had been wearing.
I, think so,
she said, unclasping it and handing the gem to Ray.
You can have it back if you want, though. It's fine, really.
Ray shook her head and pulled her hands away.
I can't take it, Usako-chan,
she replied.
It's like been bonded to you now. See? Take a look for yourself if you don't believe me.
It was true. Though last night the gem had been perfectly clear, it now shone with a faint pink light that almost matched Usako's hair. A yokai crystal gives attributes of the monster who bestowed it unto the human, said Nonami, reciting something she read long ago. If the human can survive the infusion process, they obtain aspects of the original monster. Last night, it was Ray who gave you her spare gem, so, in theory at least, you should have become part Oni, like Ray. Instead, you turned into some sort of magical girl, which should have been impossible under normal circumstances. She paused for a minute, allowing Usako time to take in what she had heard. Does this make any sort of sense so far?
Kinda,
she replied.
I get the concept well enough, I guess. But why are you guys here and... Hold on, then how the hell did I wake up in my PJs?
Ray giggled.
Don't worry, Usako-chan. I made sure to close my eyes when I took off your clothes. Can't sleep in a dirty uniform, can you? Volume warning.
You did what? She practically roared in disbelief, causing the Oni girl to shrink back in her seat.
I'm sorry, Usako-chan,
she whimpered pathetically. Getting back to the matter at hand, interrupted Nonami with a cough. Mrs. Nekomoto would like to have a word with you this afternoon. Don't worry about school. They've closed it down for the time being. The official report is that a gas main exploded in a science lab, and set off a weird chain reaction which ended up leveling half the school. You really think they'll buy that? Inquired a still fuming Usako skeptically. I mean, you guys broke through the roof in the art room. The science labs are on the main floor, 2 buildings over. Ray smiled innocently as Nanami turned slowly to face her, her right eye twitching with barely restrained fury. I thought you said that was the science room, she bit out.
It was, I swear,
Ray cried.
Oh, wait. No, that was the kanji for art, wasn't it? I, get this two mixed up all the time.
Screeched Onami in frustration, picking up the nearby coffee table and slamming it over Ray's head, splitting the frail wooden table cleanly in two. Usako's eyes nearly bugged out of her head. That was my grandmother's! Shouted Usako as Ray cradled her injured noggin. I'm terribly sorry, apologized Nanami with a blush. My temper is very short when it comes to Kobayashi-kun. I can see why, mumbled Usako in reply, a lump already forming in the middle of Ray's head. I think that's where we're going to stop tonight. Yeah, that's a good stopping point. So, hope you all enjoyed. Real quick, could you just tell me, if you've heard it for the first time, just your thoughts? I always love feedback. So, just kinda, yeah. Like I said, I started writing this back in 2014, so some of the jokes are a little dated, like come at me, bro, and stuff, but, yeah. Well, come at me, bro, that's timeless. And now to give you a little bit of a preview for what's happening next is we're gonna head to Gardner. We're gonna meet a couple little troublemakers. We're gonna meet another cat girl, and we're gonna meet a very spooky character in the next reading. I am not good at coming up with this on the fly, but I hope you'll stick around for the next one. Yeah, we'll finish War of the Yokai Book 1, and then we'll move on to Exodus. That'll be the next one we'll read. I'm just gonna keep it up right here by the computer. So thank you for watching the stream tonight. And I don't just mean this part; I mean the whole thing. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more Star Wars tomorrow night. Episode 4, A New Hope, which was the first movie. Even though it's the 4th. Gotta love Star Wars, man. So, have a good night, have a good day, wherever you're at, whenever you're watching this. I hope it's a good one for you. And take care. Bye, Anara.